This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog with another weekly baseball recap for the offseason. Nick Kingham, formerly of the Blue Jays and Pirates, he went to Korea, and Justin Bour, the former Marlins slugging first baseman who had a troubling season in Anaheim, who really didn't make sense on the roster because you had Pujols and Ohtani, that there wasn't really room if one was DHing and one was playing first base. He decided to go to Japan, and being a big-time slugger like that, the Japanese fans will love him. Greg Bird, Wei Chen, Matt Duffy, Daniel Palco, Yomar Sanchez are some of the guys who are taken off the rosters to clear spaces for the Rule 5 draft. They've all officially become free agents with all those decisions. And the O's put Jonathan Villar, who spent most of the season as their second baseman or shortstop, one of their more valuable players because he's actually sneaky young. He's not even 30 yet. He is now going to become a free agent because probably nobody's going to pick him up off waivers and pay all that money for a utility player or starter on a bad team. He'll become a free agent too, and like Matt Duffy and Yomar Sanchez, teams will love to sign him to a cheaper deal to be a backup utility player because he has played all over the infield and it used to be a league leader in stolen bases. Now the Nationals did their own job. They re-signed Yan Gomes so that they still have their World Series championship catching tandem of him and Kurt Suzuki because the Braves, Brian McCann retired. The Phillies have JT Realmuto. The Mets have Olson Ramos. The Marlins have Jorge. The Braves then went and signed Travis d'Arnaud, the former Mets player who never led up to expectations of being healthy, not being great defensively, being inconsistent. He played pretty well this year for the Rays because he could have his opportunity to DH and have to catch. He signed a deal with the Braves to be an assistant with Tyler Flowers. So both the Braves and the Nationals, the two best teams in that division, they have system catchers. They have a system they rotate. Yan Gomes has been okay, and the Nationals just needed another catcher, and there aren't that many great ones on the market. The Mariners decided Carl Edwards Jr. to be a reliever. I'm surprised he got a major league deal, but Seattle last year was so bad that they'll take any warm body, and also he hasn't been healthy. Like, he was a starting pitcher when the Cubs got him from the Rangers in that trade, and they salvaged his career because for a pretty good run, he was a good setup man. Hoping the Mariners are banking on him being healthy. Speaking of another guy who was on the Cubs, Kendall Graveman. He was that workman-like starter pitcher for the A's where he was their number one guy because he pitched like 200 innings. He got hurt, missed all the season due to Tommy John surgery, and pitched in the minor leagues for the Cubs. The Cubs didn't keep him, so the Mariners go, if he's healthy, we need another body. And that's what the Mariners have to do. Besides Felix Hernandez is gone, they only have their foreign import, and they also have Marco Gonzalez. So they only have two starters on the roster right now. So getting Kendall Graveman would help them having four guys, or three, depending on how good Justice Sheffield's going to be. So they got themselves depth. Veteran reliever, veteran starter for a last place team. The Pirates, they hired their manager, Derek Shelton. Another Twins coach has been hired that most people have never heard of and they don't know anything about. Good for the Pirates. They decided they're going to be bad. They're probably going to continue to be a last place team because the Reds are getting better and better. Let's start off with a guy who's paid his due as a coach, manager, minor leagues, major league. Give him the job. The Rays and all this maneuvering of players and stuff with Yandy Diaz becoming a free Yandy Diaz becoming third baseman because Matt Duffy, they basically released him. They went and got rid of Jesus Aguilar. They didn't want to pay all this guy to be a DH first baseman when the Lau brothers and others on the roster can play first base, and he's making too much money. So he's become a free agent. He'll be in that similar position as a lot of these one position only more DH sluggers are on the market. The Padres made the biggest types of moves this week, signing Drew Pomeranz, who has made an All-Star team, won a World Series with the Red Sox, never get an opportunity to start in both San Diego and Oakland, and being bad as a starter recently with the Giants and with the Red Sox these past couple seasons, and then going back to being a relief pitcher with the Giants, which then got him traded to the Brewers, and he was great to the end of the season. Now, a guy like Pomeranz, he's battled injuries, and he's gone back and forth. He's at stages of really good starting pitching, really bad, okay relieving, really good. But they gave him a 4-year deal. You never give a reliever more than like 2 or 3 years unless they're a closer, unless they have a proven track record, because it doesn't always work out, and he's not top-of-the-line closers on the market. There are like probably 10 guys that if they became free agents right now that were closers, that would probably get themselves a 5-year deal. It's one thing to sign him to a 4-year deal if you're going to expect him to be a starter, but they still don't have enough starting pitching. Even with the trade, they got themselves Zach Davies, who had been the Brewers' de facto ace because he pitched the most innings. He'd been there for a while, but he also himself battled injury. If him and Chris Paddock are going to be the rotation, the 1-2 punch, that still isn't good enough. They're going to need a frontline starting pitcher. Wasting your money on Drew Pomeranz and the best position player the past 2 years doesn't really help them build their team. Now, in that trade for Zach Davies, they got themselves Trent Grisham. Now, Trent Grisham last year was Christian Yelich's replacement. He made that costly play in the playoffs. Now, Trent Grisham could play center field, but he's not the best guy to play center field. And what the Padres really needed was a standout center fielder because they'd given up on Dickerson, Jankowski, and I don't know if Francisco Cordero, Manuel Margot are in great favor because they too many times last year played Will Myers in center field. And Will Myers, we all know, is a former catcher, DH, who's really okay in the outfield, but not. And Hunter Renfroe and Josh Naylor, who are outfielders, because Josh Naylor is a bad third baseman. They converted to left field. And they traded Franmil Reyes, who was under contract cheap and in his prime and hitting all these, and he was really young, hitting all these home runs to the Indians because they wanted to clear the outfield logjam. Getting Trent Grisham adds to the outfield logjam. If you just go straight on offense, you're like, we want the best offensive player. Oh, that's Naylor and Renfroe and Myers, but none of them are really center fielders. So unless they expect Trent Grisham to be the everyday center fielder, if they're not going to play Cordero or Margot, then that's on them. The biggest thing is, yeah, they gave Eric Lauer, but who cares about that? It's the fact that they gave Luis Urias, who was projected to be the open day shortstop until they made the decision that we don't care. We're going to give away a year of control of Tatis Jr. and let him play. They paid all that money for Ian Kinsler to play second base last year. So Urias only played last year because of injuries to Kinsler and Tatis. Now, Kinsler, again, is still under contract, but he wasn't that great last year. And Tatis missed a lot of time, so you don't know if he's going to be healthy. So they thought, we don't have room for him. So they trade him to the Brewers, who had just traded their infield prospect, Mauricio Dubron, to the Giants. And they don't have somebody that's young. But with Aguilar traded, Shaw can move over to the first base. They're not going to re-sign Thames. So third base is open. Now, I don't know if they're going to take RC, who's been pretty good defensively at third base, or Keston Hiura, who a lot of people say his glove work's been an issue because he DH'd a little bit too much in college. Then maybe Keston Hiura moves to third base and Urias becomes the third baseman. If you keep everything the way they are, Luis Urias would be the third baseman, and that'd be a huge improvement over Hernan Perez, a utility player, or Talos Aldino, a utility player, or them spending all that money on Mike Moustakas to play third base. That's the thing. They traded their infield prospect to the Giants for pitchers, at the deadline. And now they got one back by trading Zach Davies and an extra outfielder because they have a very stacked outfielder of Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich and Ryan Braun and Ben Gamel. So they're going to come out on top because they get themselves an extra pitcher who could start or relieve, and they get themselves their potential starting second baseman or third baseman, obviously spending all the money on the free agent. They lose Zach Davies and Gio Gonzalez in free agency. They're going to have to look at obviously starting some pitching because that's what's been holding them back as frontline starters. But there are plenty of starting pitchers on the market they can always look into. Now, the Rangers have had Lance Lynn and Mike Minor the past couple of years has been their free agent signings. And Mike Minor, he got healthy this year. He pitched a bunch of innings. He made the All-Star team. He was very, very good for them. It was his first full season as starter since he was with the Braves, and he never had a full season due to health. Lance Lynn, former recovering from Tommy John surgery, had been the same pitcher, bounced for the Yankees and Twins. He gave him almost 200 innings. But Mike Minor and Lance Lynn, they're back-end starter. Do what they go out and do? They don't sign a frontline starter or a top-tier position player. They go out and sign Kyle Gibson, who has been the clear definition of back-end starter, fifth starter for the Twins his whole entire Twins career to a multi-year deal. So now that they just signed, they now have 3 back-end starting pitchers in their rotation. That's not going to help them get out of get to the playoffs, but at least they got starting pitching because last year they didn't have enough bodies. Diamondbacks, they let Alex Avila go as a free agent. They have Caleb Joseph and Carson Kelly on the roster. This would be Carson Kelly's first season in the 2020 season for him to be the starter of the whole entire season. And Caleb Joseph, being a good defensive catcher in Baltimore, perfect backup because they're still paying him. But they went on to sign Stephen Vogt, who has battled injuries his whole career, who's better known as a hitter than a defensive player, and he should be playing first base or DH. Now, with the Giants, he played a bunch of games in left field because the Giants had no outfielders and they wanted his bat in the lineup. I was thinking that he would go to a team like the Angels or the Rangers or the Astros, a team where he could potentially a couple of days a week DH or play first base and not have to worry about the dumb idea of playing the outfield. So I don't understand why the Diamondbacks signed him. I don't know why he went to the Diamondbacks. They have Carson Kelly, so they didn't really need team vote, and he shouldn't have gone to National League team. That's my opinion. The Phillies, despite having a steadily good player, it's just Hernandez, he's really steady. They signed Josh Harrison to a minor league deal. Now Scott Kingery is the number one utility player on this roster, and Gene Segura is the starting shortstop, and Maikel Franco is the incumbent third baseman. That Philadelphia does not get Donaldson, and they don't get Anthony Rendon, or they don't go in to get Todd Frazier or Mike Moustakas, and they go into the season with Scott Kingery and Maikel Franco at third base. Trust me, Josh Harrison will make the roster as one of the backups, and he'll probably play a lot of innings at third base or even second base, or if injuries in the outfield, because he can play every single position. So that's a very good move. You sign with a team where they have questions at second and third base. They haven't been healthy in the outfield, and as a super utility player, Josh Harrison, good move. Astros, both their catchers, Chirinos and Maldonado, became free agents. They haven't signed anybody. They decided, let's go sign Dustin Garneau, who has bounced from Colorado, the White Sox, the Angels, and the A's. He got a major league deal. I'm surprised he got a major, like I said about Carl Edwards Jr. The Astros need a starting catcher and a real backup. Garneau's always been the third-string catcher on a team, not really a backup or starter material. So I don't know why the Astros waste their money with giving him a major league contract when they could have easily just given him a minor league deal. Twins, they're smart. Give the former Tigers reliever Blaine Hardy a minor league deal because the Twins need to rebuild their bullpen but don't spend a lot of money. Good idea there. The Braves, as I mentioned before, signing d'Arnaud, good idea. They need offense. So the real winners this week have been the Nationals bringing back their catcher, the Pirates finally having a manager, Phillies signing Josh Harrison, and the Brewers forgetting themselves Luis Urias. That is pretty good week for the Brewers because they don't have to spend money on a third baseman. They can spend their money on frontline starting pitching to replace a guy like Kyle Davies, who had been in the front of their team. Because the funny thing is, the Padres had Drew Pomeranz originally, and they traded him. They loved him so much, they gave him back. They got him back and signed him to a 4-year deal. The Brewers, in order to get themselves Mr. Pomeranz to service for the end of the season in the playoffs as a relief pitcher, not as a starter, they had to give up Mauricio Dubon to the Giants. So it's funny, the Padres gave away Luis Urias, who replaces Mauricio Dubon on Milwaukee as a potential starting infielder. And Milwaukee doesn't have to pay Drew Pomeranz all this money. And they can save money on signing a third baseman. And they still have Ray Black as a reliever. They don't have to sign that many relievers either. That they basically said, Dubon, Urias replaces Dubon, and we can just spend our money on pitching instead of position players. So the Milwaukee Brewers really came out on top. Thanks for listening to another weekly edition of Baseball Offseason Recap from Radar. For the Tanner Blog. See you next time.